As the autumn leaves dance to the ground and the nights grow longer, an ancient holiday whispers through the October winds, beckoning us into its mystical embrace. But have you ever stopped to think? What is the untold story behind Halloween? A celebration enshrouded in mystery and lore, a night that has transcended borders, survived religious upheavals, and morphed into a commercial spectacle? Prepare to embark on a thrilling journey that will take you from the Celtic harvest festivals of Samhain through Roman conquests, across the stormy seas with Irish immigrants, and into the heart of modern-day debates that challenge the very essence of this enigmatic holiday. You won't look at October 31st the same way again. As we trace the origins of Halloween back in time, it's impossible to ignore its deeply spiritual and agricultural roots. Halloween didn't start with costumes and candies. It began as the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. Celebrated around October 31st to November 1st, Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a period often associated with death. For the Celts, this was a crucial time when the veil between the living and the spiritual realms was at its thinnest, allowing for easier communication with deceased ancestors and other spirits. Ritual bonfires were lit to ward off evil spirits and celebrate the harvest. Families would also set places at their dinner tables for deceased loved ones, believing their spirits could visit the mortal realm. Fast forward, and we see how Roman rule blended these ancient Celtic traditions with their own cultural practices. The Romans celebrated a festival called Feralia, usually in late October, where they would honor and give offerings to the souls of the deceased, helping them to find peace in the afterlife. As the Roman Empire expanded its influence over Celtic lands, these two distinct traditions began to merge. Feralia's rituals of honoring the departed began to intertwine with Samhain's focus on the spiritual veil, creating a rich mosaic of belief and practice that eventually evolved into the Halloween festivities we know today. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III made a calculated move to overlay the Christian celebration of All Saints' Day over pre-existing pagan festivals like Samhain and Feralia. This strategic decision was part of a larger pattern of Christianizing indigenous traditions, thus making the transition to the new religion smoother for converts. All Saints' Day became a holy day of reverence, complete with church services and lighting candles on the graves of the deceased. The practice of commemorating saints and martyrs on this day also served as a method to link the living and the dead in a sanctioned Christian manner, replacing the more mystic and shamanistic rituals of the Celts and Romans. However, the Protestant Reformation, headed by figures like Martin Luther and John Calvin, profoundly impacted the observance of holidays with Catholic roots. The Reformers aimed to purify Christianity by shedding practices not explicitly authorized in the Bible, which included many feast days and saintly observances like All Saints' Day. This was particularly true in countries such as England and Scotland that embraced Protestantism most fervently. In some regions, Halloween came to be viewed as popish, aligned with Catholicism, and was therefore discouraged if not outright banned. Despite this setback, the celebration persisted in various forms and idioms, largely due to the resilience of folk traditions and the fact that the holiday found a sanctuary in regions where Catholicism remained strong. Over time, the evening before All Saints' Day continued to hold a special, although sometimes secretive, place in people's hearts, eventually evolving into the Halloween we recognize today. This enigmatic holiday underwent another transformation when it crossed the Atlantic to the United States. The catalyst for this transatlantic shift was the wave of Irish immigration during the 19th century, particularly intensified by the Irish potato famine. The Irish brought with them their Halloween traditions, which included dressing in costumes and going door to door, originally a practice intended to ward off harmful spirits. This door-to-door candy quest has roots in medieval Europe with traditions like souling, where people would go from house to house offering prayers for the deed in exchange for soul cakes. Gysing, another yearly form of trick-or-treating, involved young people dressing in costumes and performing for treats. As these traditions took root in America, they were also influenced by Native American harvest festivals and began to evolve to fit the cultural mosaic in the United States. What was initially a European tradition melded with indigenous practices to create a uniquely American version of Halloween. Another one of the holiday's most iconic symbols and traditions that underwent change was the jack-o'-lantern. Originally, the Irish carved grotesque faces into turnips and placed a coal ember inside, creating a menacing glow that would illuminate the night. The aim was to do two things. First, to symbolize how Stingy Jack is doomed to walk forever, as he was a clever but deceitful man who managed to trick the devil not just once but multiple times, and second, to keep away any evil spirits that might be around, especially during the spiritually charged time of Samhain. But when Irish immigrants came to America, they found that pumpkins, native to the New World, were far more abundant and easier to carve than turnips, thus making carved pumpkins, perhaps, the most famous symbol of Halloween. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we see another transformation: commercialization. With the advent of mass production, costumes and decorations became readily available, making it easier than ever for people to participate in Halloween festivities. But the real masterstroke was by candy companies. Recognizing the profitability of this holiday, they turned Halloween into a bonanza of sugary treats. Companies like Hershey's and Mars capitalized on the tradition of trick-or-treating, transforming Halloween into one of the most lucrative annual events for the confectionery industry. Another fascinating evolution is how we've moved from dressing up as supernatural beings intended to ward off evil spirits to embodying a plethora of characters from popular culture, be it superheroes, celebrities, or even memes. In the early days, donning frightening masks and garments was largely utilitarian, designed to frighten away harmful spirits that were believed to roam the earth on Halloween night. But with the advent of mass media in the 20th century, particularly film and television, the scope of what one could dress up as broadened enormously. Movie monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein's monster became popular, transitioning the tradition from folklore-based costumes to ones influenced by pop culture. These choices also marked a change in tone. Rather than embodying figures solely meant to instill fear, people began to dress up as characters they admired or found fascinating. Fast forward to the age of the internet, and the definition of what makes for an appropriate or popular Halloween costume has evolved dramatically. Viral memes, video game characters, and even abstract concepts now find their way into Halloween, turning costumes into a form of real-world clickbait. These creative or timely outfits not only garner attention on the streets, but also become viral sensations on social media platforms. But the impact of technology on Halloween goes beyond just digital show and tell. It has transformed the holiday experience itself. Augmented reality apps have emerged as a new way to add an extra layer of spookiness or fun, allowing people to see ghosts or mythical creatures in their immediate surroundings. Likewise, social media is no longer just a stage for displaying your costume creativity. It has evolved into a competitive arena for virtual costume contests, where the most innovative designs are rewarded with likes and shares. In the modern day, Halloween has also been spread globally and has taken on different interpretations for different cultures. Today, discussing Halloween without acknowledging its similarities and differences with Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is impossible. While both holidays involve honoring the deceased, their tones are markedly different. Halloween leans towards the spooky and eerie, whereas Dia de los Muertos is more of a vibrant celebration of life and remembrance, replete with colorful altars and festive meals. The practices are rooted in different cultural and religious traditions, but both share an underlying focus on the cycle of life and death. Beyond North America, Halloween has different levels of prominence worldwide. In countries like Japan, the holiday is not traditionally celebrated, but has been adopted as a pop culture event focused on costumes and parties. However, in some parts of Europe and the Middle East, Halloween is often frowned upon or completely ignored for religious or cultural reasons. So, as Halloween continues to find its way into various corners of the globe, it morphs, adapts, and even clashes with existing local traditions, making it a complex and ever-evolving phenomenon. Like any phenomenon, there are a plethora of modern debates and controversies that swirl around Halloween. One significant point of contention is cultural appropriation. as Halloween costumes have often been the epicenter of this debate. While the holiday is a time for imaginative expression, costumes that caricature or demean cultural, ethnic, or religious groups have been rightfully criticized for perpetuating stereotypes and insensitive cultural borrowing. On the flip side, Halloween is also experiencing a sort of pagan revival. With the resurgence of interest in pagan and Wiccan practices, some groups are revisiting Halloween's ancient Celtic roots, aiming to celebrate it as Samhain, which holds spiritual significance as a time when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. For these groups, Halloween isn't merely a time for candy and costumes. It's a sacred ancestral tradition. Halloween is not merely a night of costumes and candy. It's a dynamic mosaic shaped by a rich blend of cultural, religious, and commercial elements. As we celebrate this enigmatic holiday, it's worth pondering the rich history and ongoing debates that continue to shape it. As you don your costume or light a jack-o'-lantern this year, remember that you're not just partaking in a fun ritual, you're contributing to a centuries-old narrative that's as fascinating as it is mysterious.